The void screamed around Peter Quill, a kaleidoscope of shattered stars and dying nebulae. His M-ship, the Milano, was no more than a burning fragment, torn asunder by the surge from the collapsing Kree portal. One moment he was leading the Guardians through a desperate escape. The next, he was alone, flung through a rift in reality itself, the last wisps of hooked on a feeling dying in his ears. His helmet display flickered, displaying critical life support failures and proximity alerts.
Too many alerts.
Too close to too many things. His body hit something wet and cold with a sickening crunch. The impact knocked the wind from his lungs, stealing the scream that had built in his throat. Water, dark and churning, immediately engulfed him. Panic, raw and instinctual, seized him. The helmet, though cracked, still held. Barely. A dull ache bloomed in his head, a steady throb that synchronized with the frantic beat of his heart. He kicked, fighting the insistent pull of the deep, a desperate scramble for the surface he couldn't see. Above, not far from where Quill had plummeted into the murky depths of Gotham Bay, Jim Gordon clung precariously to the railing of a half-sunken barge, the heavy rain plastering his trench coat to his lean frame. The storm, a furious beast of wind and water, had turned the already grim cityscape into a nightmare of shadows and obscured lights. His comms unit crackled, useless against the deluge. He'd lost contact with Bullock hours ago, and the emergency beacon from the Blackgate transfer was dead. Any sign? Gordon shouted, his voice barely cutting through the wind, to a younger officer struggling to secure a loose tarp. The officer shook his head, water streaming from his face. "Just more debris, Commissioner."
And the current's getting worse.
Gordon squinted into the gloom, the beam of his heavy-duty flashlight cutting through the oppressive darkness, searching for anything resembling the vanished prison transport. The reports had been vague, panicked, but clear enough. Something had descended from the sky, something not normal, and it had obliterated the prison barge. Now only wreckage and an ever-growing sense of dread remained.
A chill, colder than the biting wind, snaked its way down his spine.
This wasn't a job for the GCPD, this was a job for him. But where was he? Suddenly, a thrashing in the water near a splintered pier caught Gordon's eye. It was too violent, too erratic for mere debris. He swung his flashlight, its beam piercing the rain-streaked darkness, and landed squarely on a figure struggling against the powerful current. Not just a figure, a man, but what he saw made his blood run cold. The man was encased in some kind of bizarre metallic suit, a glowing red visor staring blankly at the sky as he fought to stay afloat. One arm, though, was definitely human, thrashing in a desperate, uncoordinated manner. "Over there!" Gordon yelled, pointing.
Man in the water.
"Looks like some kind of diver." The lie tasted like ash in his mouth. No diver looked like that. No diver had ever fallen from the sky in a blinding flash of light. Quill gasped, a mix of seawater and air filling his lungs as he finally broke the surface, coughing violently. His helmet's internal lights flickered, warning him of structural integrity compromise. He could feel the cold, slimy grip of whatever water he was in, the stench of oil and something else, something metallic and foul, filling his nostrils. The sky above was a dizzying blur of dark clouds and distant, flickering lights that looked nothing like stars. This wasn't Xandar. This wasn't even nowhere. This was awful. His eyes behind the cracked visor scanned the immediate surroundings. Wreckage. So much wreckage. And giant hulking structures that defied any known architectural style he was familiar with. They pierced the storm-lashed sky like jagged teeth. A siren wailed in the distance, a mournful, alien sound that grated on his already frayed nerves. A booming voice cut through the wind and his ragged breathing.
"Hey, you! Can you hear me?"
Quill turned his head, vision blurring at the edges. A figure stood on a crumbling pier, illuminated by a harsh beam of light.
A human, or at least human-shaped.
dressed in strange, dark clothing.
And he was shouting, "Yeah, I hear you, buddy.
Quill managed to shout back, his voice hoarse.
Can you give me a hand?"
My ride just took a dive. He tried for his usual bravado, but it came out more like a plea. Gordon stared, uncomprehending.
"Ride? What was this guy talking about?"
His team was already moving, 2 officers scrambling to deploy a life raft. Just hold on.
"We're getting you out."
Quill watched them, disoriented. They moved with a practiced urgency, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly, fundamentally wrong. The energy in the air, the heavy, oppressive atmosphere, it was unlike anything he'd ever felt. He just needed to get to solid ground, figure out what galaxy he'd landed in, and call Rocket. If he could even call Rocket. He tried his comms again. Nothing but static. As the life raft neared, Quill felt a shift in the water beneath him. A dark, impossibly swift shadow darted past, stirring the debris.
Then another, and another.
His helmet's damaged sensors, against all odds, flared red. Life signs detected, multiple at large, hostile. Fellas? Quill yelled, a cold dread washing over him. You might want to speed it up.
"We got company."
Gordon, hearing the sudden change in the man's tone, tensed. He saw nothing in the churning water. What are you talking about? What company? Suddenly, a monstrous, scaly head erupted from the water directly in front of the life raft, its jaws snapping shut, with enough force to splinter wood. The officers screamed, scrambling back. The creature was massive, easily 20 feet long, with glowing red eyes and rows of razor-sharp teeth. Its skin was a sickly green, covered in barnacles and algae. Crocodile!
One officer shrieked, fumbling for his weapon. "That's no crocodile."
Gordon roared, pulling his own service pistol. He'd seen Killer Croc before, but this was different. Bigger, more feral, and there were more of them. Quill, despite his pain and disorientation, recognized a threat when he saw one. He might be out of his element, but he wasn't helpless. Boot jets, miraculously, still had some juice. He activated them, pushing himself backwards, away from the attacking beast, towards the crumbling pier. His quad blasters were gone, ripped from his holster during the crash.
He was unarmed. The creature lunged again, its tail slamming against the raft, capsizing it.
The officers were thrown into the frigid water, their shouts swallowed by the storm. Quill landed hard against the barnacle-encrusted pier, the impact jarring his entire body. He struggled to his feet, pulling himself onto the precarious structure. The monsters in the water were circling, their red eyes fixed on the struggling officers. "Don't just stand there, shoot it!" Quill yelled at Gordon, pointing at the closest beast with a shaking hand. "What are those things?" Gordon, for his part, was already firing, his shots pinging off the creature's armored hide, doing little more than annoying it.
They're mutated. We don't know what they are."
Get to cover. More creatures emerged, their grotesque forms illuminated by flashes of lightning. The bay was alive with them, a nightmare horde. Quill watched in horror as one of the officers was dragged under, a final gurgling scream abruptly cut short. This wasn't just a bad landing. This was a nightmare.
And he was right in the middle of it. Peter Quill,
known less formally as Star-Lord, found himself pinned against the cold, damp concrete of a Gotham alleyway, the acrid stench of garbage and fear stinging his nostrils. His helmet was gone, ripped off during a frantic dash through the rain-slicked streets, revealing his unkempt hair and a bruised, grimy face. His long leather trench coat was torn, and his shirt, though still emblazoned with a faded red star, was soaked through. His hands were bound behind him with industrial-strength zip ties, and a GCPD officer, a burly man named Detective Bullock, loomed over him, his face a mask of suspicion and irritation. "All right."
"Star-Lord," Bullock grunted, shoving a crumpled,
waterlogged wanted poster in Quill's face. It depicted a vaguely familiar figure in a dark cape and cowl, a symbol Quill didn't recognize emblazoned across his chest. "Let's try this again."
"Who are you?"
"Where did you come from?"
And what in the hell did you do to that Blackgate transport and those mutated gators?
Quill winced, shaking his head. Look, dude, for the 10th time, I'm Peter Quill, Star-Lord, leader of the Guardians of the Galaxy.
And I came from, well, another galaxy. And I didn't do anything to your Blackgate thingy. I crash-landed.
My ship got totaled. And those gators are not native to my local swamp. He gestured vaguely with his bound hands, feeling a dull ache in his shoulders. They're like bioengineered monstrosities or something. You guys got some serious pest control issues, Bullock snorted, a plume of cigar smoke curling into the rain.
Another galaxy?
Right. And I'm the Easter Bunny. You think this is a joke? We had half a dozen witnesses see something bright as a sun streak across the sky right before that barge blew up. Then you crawl out of the water in some kind of spacesuit, muttering about Rocket and Gamora like you're on a first-name basis with a furry rodent and a green woman. Because I am, Quill insisted, exasperated. Look, I know this sounds wild, but I'm telling you the truth. My ship, the Milano, was destroyed during a dimensional jump.
I'm lost. I just want to find my team and go home. He tried to project a calm, authoritative air, but the pounding rain and the constant wail of sirens made it difficult.
This wasn't how he usually made first contact. Usually, there was more yelling and fewer zip ties. Commissioner Gordon, who had arrived shortly after Quill was fished out of the bay and immediately cuffed, stepped forward, his expression grave. He had listened to the exchange, his mind reeling. The man's story was outlandish beyond belief, yet the wreckage, the unusual energy signatures the nascent Justice League was already tracking, and the sheer desperation in Quill's eyes, there was something about it. He was trying to help, Gordon stated, his voice low but firm, cutting through Bullock's bluster. He warned us about the creatures. He might be delusional, but he's not the one who created those things. He gestured to the surrounding alley, where more officers were securing the perimeter, their faces grim. The news of the mutated creatures had spread like wildfire. Bullock just grumbled, unconvinced. He's a perp until proven otherwise, Commissioner.
Maybe he's a new meta. Maybe he's working with that madman who let those things loose. Quill's head snapped up. Madman? Who are we talking about? Some kind of supervillain?
Like Thanos? Because if it's Thanos, you guys are seriously under-equipped. Gordon and Bullock exchanged a look. Thanos. The name meant nothing to them. Look, Gordon said, addressing Quill directly, his eyes scrutinizing the self-proclaimed Star-Lord. We don't know who you are or where you truly came from, but we have a situation.
Those creatures you saw, they're spreading.
And there are reports of strange energy fluctuations across the city, centered around the same area where your ship supposedly crashed. Quill felt a flicker of hope.
Energy fluctuations meant something.
Maybe a residual warp signature, something his tech could track, if he could just get his hands on some of it.
See, I told you.
My tech probably left a trace. If you just let me access my gear, I can probably tell you what's going on, and maybe even help you clean up this mess. Bullock scoffed.
Your gear?
We found a broken Walkman and a bunch of strange metal shards near where you surfaced.
Nothing that looks like it could fight off a giant croc. It's called a Zune, actually, Quill corrected instinctively, then sighed.
And my blasters, my helmet, my jet boots, they were probably all jettisoned. But I can still figure this out.
I'm good at figuring things out.
It's kind of my thing. Gordon weighed his options. The man was either a lunatic, a superpowered threat, or something else entirely. But the city was in crisis, and the usual channels were either overwhelmed or still trying to grasp the sheer impossibility of the situation. He knew he was coming, of course. He always did, but he couldn't wait. All right, Gordon said, making a decision that went against every protocol he'd ever learned. Untie him, Bullock. Bullock's jaw dropped.
Commissioner, are you serious? He's a wild card.
We don't know anything about him. And we know even less about what we're facing out there, Gordon retorted, gesturing towards the sound of distant screams and explosions. He warned us about those things. If his story about another galaxy is true, then maybe he's seen stranger. He's coming with us. but I'll be watching him closely. Quill felt the zip ties give way, relief washing over him as he rubbed his raw wrists. He looked at Gordon, a flicker of respect in his eyes. Finally, some common sense. So, Commissioner, what's the plan?
And who's this madman you mentioned? Is he like some sort of galactic warlord?
Or just a really angry dude with a bad temper? Gordon's expression tightened. The madman, they call him the Joker. And he's far more dangerous than any warlord you could imagine. This city's been under siege before. But this is different. This is a whole new level of chaos, even for Gotham. And it started the moment you arrived. Quill felt a cold knot form in his stomach. The Joker. The name itself felt like a curse. And the implication that his arrival was somehow tied to this new chaos. He knew he was a magnet for trouble, but this was a bit much, even for him. He looked at the grim faces of the police officers, the flickering lights of the patrol cars reflecting in the puddles, and the towering Gothic architecture of Gotham City, which seemed to loom over them like a menacing gargoyle. This wasn't just a bad day, this was a whole new level of cosmic screw-up, and he had a very bad feeling it was just getting started. The tactical room within GCPD headquarters was a maelstrom of frantic activity, a stark contrast to the grim silence that usually permeated its walls. Maps of Gotham flashed across holographic displays, pinpointing growing zones of chaos and sightings of the grotesque, mutated creatures now dubbed Bay Horrors. The air crackled with the static of overworked comms and the anxious murmurs of officers. Peter Quill, still disheveled but now with a hastily scavenged, ill-fitting police jacket draped over his shoulders, stood by a large monitor trying to decipher the alien symbols and strange jargon. His hands, still raw from the zip ties, instinctively reached for the hilt of a blaster that wasn't there. He felt a profound sense of helplessness he hadn't experienced since he was a kid on Earth. So these Bay Horrors are converging on what you call Arkham Asylum? Quill asked, turning to Gordon. The commissioner was speaking rapidly into a comms unit, his face etched with exhaustion and worry. Gordon nodded, finally breaking away from the comm. That's the current intelligence. The Joker's broadcast, the one he made right after your arrival, declared Arkham his new playground. He's been orchestrating the chaos from there, using some kind of sonic frequency to draw those things inland. Sonic frequency? Quill's eyebrows shot up. That explains why my internal audio dampeners were going haywire during the crash.
He must be broadcasting it on some broad-spectrum band.
And the creatures, they react to it.
He's controlling them?
We think so, Gordon confirmed, rubbing his temples. Or at least guiding them.
He's always been about chaos, but this is a new low, even for him.
He's always had a flair for the theatrical, but mass-producing monsters.
That's uncharted territory. Quill frowned, processing the information. A sonic controller.
Mutated beasts, a self-proclaimed Joker at an asylum. This was wilder than anything he'd faced in the Nova Corps. Okay, so we need to stop the broadcast, right? Take down this Joker guy, and the creatures should calm down, or at least lose their focus. That's the theory, Gordon admitted grimly. But Arkham is a fortress, and it's surrounded by those things. We've tried conventional assaults, but they're too numerous, too aggressive. Our losses are mounting. He gestured to the grim faces around them, the casualty report scrolling relentlessly on another screen. Quill looked at the map, seeing the glowing red dots of the Bay Horrors like a spreading disease.
Arkham Asylum was a dark, brooding mass at the center of it all.
He thought about Rocket's ingenious tech, Gamora's lethal precision, Drax's unwavering strength, Groot's, well, Grootness.
He missed them with an aching intensity.
He was just one guy without his gear, without his team. All right, Quill said, taking a deep breath. What's the play? What's the fastest way into this Arkham place? And does anyone have a spare blaster? Or like a really strong slingshot? Bullock, who had been observing from a distance, stepped forward.
You still think you're going with us with Star-Lord?
This ain't no space opera, kid. This is Gotham.
And Arkham is where the real monsters live. Look, Bullock, I might not have my fancy gadgets, but I've got experience, Quill retorted, a flash of his usual swagger returning.
I've infiltrated Kree battle stations, outsmarted Ronan the Accuser, and even survived a dance-off with a literal god. I know how to get into places and cause a distraction. What's your plan B? Gordon surprisingly stepped in. He might be our only shot, Bullock. Our teams are bogged down. And if he's telling the truth about another galaxy, then he might see things we don't. Think outside the box, Detective, Bullock grumbled, but didn't argue further. The desperation in the room was palpable. Our best intel suggests a secondary access tunnel under the main courtyard, Gordon explained, pointing to a section of the holographic map. It's a maintenance conduit rarely used. High risk of collapse, but it's the least guarded approach. The creatures are concentrated around the main gates. Okay, maintenance tunnel, got it, Quill said, nodding. Is there a schematic?
Any idea what kind of security we're looking at inside?
Besides the Joker, I mean.
Are there like any particularly grumpy guards?
Or maybe a killer clown with a penchant for riddles. He tried for levity, but the dark looks he received told him it wasn't landing. You're in Gotham, it's Star-Lord, Gordon said, his voice flat. Assume the worst. Assume there's a killer clown, and he has an army of equally deranged psychopaths. And assume the tunnel is rigged to blow. We need someone to breach that tunnel, disable the external broadcast source,
and then locate the Joker. Our main assault will be a diversion to pull the creatures away from your entry point. Quill stared at the map. This was a suicide mission, plain and simple.
He was a space pirate, not a special ops soldier. But the images of the struggling officers in the water, the sheer terror in their eyes, flashed through his mind. He wasn't going to stand by. He never did. All right, Quill said, a grim determination setting in. Send me the schematics. And if anyone has a spare energy pistol or even a stun gun, that would be greatly appreciated. My dance-off moves are usually more effective with a beat, and I don't think this Arkham guy is going to be impressed by my groovy footwork. Gordon actually managed a ghost of a smile. We'll see what we can scrounge up. Just be ready. This city doesn't take kindly to outsiders, especially ones who arrive in a flash of light and bring monsters with them. Quill felt a chill.
Yeah, I'm getting that vibe.
So what's the time frame? We talking hours?
Minutes.
Gordon looked at the escalating conflict on the screens, the red dots on the map pulsing faster, closer. Less than an hour. The longer the broadcast runs, the more creatures are drawn here. Gotham can't withstand this much longer. Quill nodded, feeling the weight of the city's fate suddenly rest on his shoulders. He was alone, unarmed, and utterly out of his depth. But he was Peter Quill, and he had a galaxy of experience dealing with impossible odds.
Arkham Asylum, the Joker, and a horde of mutated bay monsters.
Just another Tuesday. Probably. The rain had lessened to a drizzle, but a thick, cloying fog had rolled in, turning the already oppressive landscape around Arkham Asylum into a spectral nightmare. The ancient Gothic stone structure silhouetted against the bruised pre-dawn sky looked less like a hospital and more like a monstrous sleeping beast. Quill, now clad in dark, standard-issue tactical gear, a Kevlar vest, dark fatigues and heavy boots, felt utterly out of place. He'd managed to secure a standard-issue GCPD service pistol, a heavy, clunky thing that felt entirely wrong in his hands, and a handful of spare clips. No energy blasters, no jet boots, not even his trusty Zune. He was crouched behind a derelict, overturned vehicle, alongside a small, grim-faced GCPD tactical squad. The air was thick with the stench of decay and something metallic. The wails of the Bay horrors echoed through the fog, a guttural chorus that sent shivers down his spine. The sounds of distant gunfire and explosions from the main assault force were constant, a brutal backdrop to their covert operation. "All right, Star-Lord," Lieutenant Ramirez, the squad leader, whispered, her voice tight with tension. "The tunnel entrance is 50 meters due north, concealed under that overgrown mausoleum. We'll provide cover fire to draw any immediate hostiles.
Once you're in, it's a one-way trip.
The tunnel's unstable, designed to collapse once the pressure plates are triggered. We'll seal it behind you. Quill nodded, gripping the unfamiliar pistol. He scanned the foggy landscape, his eyes straining to pierce the gloom. The bay horrors were everywhere, hulking shapes moving like phantoms, their red eyes glowing malevolently. One of them, bigger than the rest, lumbered past just yards from their position, its massive head twitching as if scenting them. "So I get in, disable the broadcast, then find Mr. J, right?" Quill whispered back, trying to keep his voice steady. "Any tips on dealing with a psycho clown? Do I try to appeal to his inner child?"
Offer him a dance-off?
"Because I'm kinda running low on tricks here." Ramirez gave him a cold, hard stare.
You find him, you neutralize him.
"He's not human, not anymore."
He's a disease.
"And he won't hesitate to kill you." Quill swallowed, the gravity of her words sinking in.
No dancing then.
"Just neutralize." He didn't like the sound of that. His usual modus operandi involved less neutralizing and more charming, or at least more running away when the charming didn't work. "All right," Quill said, taking a deep breath. "Understood. Just tell me when." A sudden surge in the wailing of the bay horrors signaled the start of the diversionary attack.
Explosions rocked the main gate of Arkham, momentarily silhouetting the creatures as they turned, drawn by the sound and fury. "Now!"
Ramirez hissed, motioning forward. "Go!" Quill burst from cover, his heavy boots splashing through puddles. He ran, low and fast, the pistol clutched in his hand, his heart hammering against his ribs. The screams of the creatures, now mixed with the shouts of the GCPD officers, filled the air. A bay horror, distracted by the main assault, lurched towards him. Quill instinctively raised the pistol and fired, the loud bang startling him. The shot hit the creature in the shoulder, drawing a shriek of pain but doing little more than making it angrier. "Keep moving!" Ramirez yelled over the comms unit that had been jammed into his ear. "Don't engage directly." Quill broke into a sprint, feeling the ground tremble as the enraged creature charged after him. He dodged behind a crumbling statue, the creature's snapping jaws missing him by inches. He kept running, adrenaline coursing through his veins, towards the dark maw of the mausoleum. He dove through the entrance, scrambling inside the dank, oppressive space. The air here was heavy with the smell of mold and something ancient. At the back, a rusted grate, half obscured by tangled vines, marked the tunnel entrance.
He kicked at it, but it wouldn't budge. "Need a breach!"
Quill yelled into his comms. "Rill sealed!" "Stand clear." Ramirez's voice was sharp. A moment later, a focused burst of explosive charges from outside blew the grate inward with a deafening crash, showering Quill with dust and debris. He stumbled forward, coughing, and scrambled into the gaping hole. Behind him, he heard the sounds of the bay horror slamming against the mausoleum, its enraged roars echoing. He clambered into the tunnel, a narrow, dark passage that sloped sharply downwards. The air grew colder, heavier. Behind him, he heard a tremendous rumble, and then the sickening sound of stone grinding against stone as the entrance collapsed, sealing him in. He was alone. He switched on the small tactical flashlight attached to his vest, its beam cutting through the absolute darkness, revealing a claustrophobic tunnel of crumbling brick and rusted pipes. Water dripped from the ceiling, collecting in stagnant pools on the uneven floor. He could hear the faint, high-pitched hum of the sonic broadcast vibrating through the very ground beneath his feet. It was getting stronger. Quill moved cautiously, his senses on high alert. Every shadow seemed to twist into something menacing. Every drip of water sounded like a footstep. He was acutely aware of the pistol in his hand, its weight a meager comfort. He missed his blasters, his helmet's enhanced vision, his flight. He missed everything. The tunnel began to branch, a confusing maze of interconnected conduits. He consulted the crude map that had been uploaded to a small, rugged tablet he'd been given. The broadcast source, according to their intel, was located in a sub-basement chamber directly beneath the main Arkham Tower. He had to find the right path. Suddenly a metallic clatter echoed from ahead. Quill froze, his heart leaping into his throat. He extinguished his flashlight, plunging himself into utter darkness, relying on the faint hum of the broadcast to guide him. He pressed himself against the slimy brick wall, the pistol raised, his finger hovering over the trigger. A shadowy figure emerged from the gloom, its footsteps echoing strangely. It was tall, impossibly thin, and moved with a jerky, unnatural gait. As it drew closer, illuminated by a faint, eerie green glow emanating from deeper within the tunnel, Quill saw it clearly. It was a man, but twisted, emaciated, his skin an unnatural sickly green, his eyes wide and devoid of sanity. He wore a tattered, straitjacket-like uniform, and in his hand he clutched a rusty length of rebar, dragging it along the floor, creating the metallic clatter. "Well, well, well," the figure croaked, his voice raspy, a parody of cheerfulness. "Look what the cat dragged in."
Another pretty face come to play in Joker's funhouse.
He cackled, a dry, rattling sound that scraped against Quill's nerves. "You smell different, though."
Not like the others, not like fear. Yet, Quill kept silent, assessing the threat. A lunatic, probably one of Arkham's more disturbed patients, now free.
"He seemed to be guarding the tunnel. What's the matter, spaceman?" The figure taunted, taking another shuffling step closer.
"Cat got your tongue?"
Or did Joker's little toys scare the courage right out of you? Quill didn't recognize the term spaceman. This guy knew something, or was just guessing. "Who are you?" Quill asked, his voice low, trying to gauge the man's state of mind. "Me?" The figure laughed again, a high-pitched, disturbing sound. "Why, I'm just an old friend of Joker's, and he's got big plans for you. Very big plans. He's been expecting you, you know." Quill felt a chill that had nothing to do with the dampness of the tunnel.
"Expected him how?"
"Expected me for what?" "Why, to be part of the grand finale, of course." The figure lunged surprisingly fast, swinging the rebar in a wide, vicious arc. Quill ducked under the blow, the rusty metal whistling past his head. He rolled, bringing the pistol up, but hesitated. This was a man, albeit a deranged one.
He wasn't one of the Bay horrors, but the man was trying to kill him. "Look, buddy, I don't want any trouble,"
Quill shouted, scrambling back, trying to create distance. "Oh, but trouble is all we have here, spaceman," the lunatic shrieked, advancing again, eyes gleaming with madness.
"Trouble and pain and laughter."
All thanks to Joker's beautiful symphony. He swung again, this time aiming for Quill's legs. Quill fired, aiming for the man's arm. The shot cracked through the confined space, hitting the rebar and sending sparks flying. The lunatic screamed, not in pain, but in rage, dropping the rebar.
He lunged, a terrifying guttural roar tearing from his throat, his long, bony fingers clawing at Quill's face. Quill felt a sudden, sharp pain as a nail raked across his cheek.
He stumbled back, then brought the pistol butt up, slamming it against the man's temple. The lunatic went down with a surprised grunt, collapsing into a heap on the damp floor. He didn't move. Quill stared, his chest heaving, the stench of gunpowder and stale blood filling his nostrils. He'd knocked him out. He hoped. He hated this. He was a lover, not a fighter, usually, when he had his blasters. He looked at the unconscious patient, then at the green glow emanating from the deeper tunnel. "Expected me," the man had said.
How could the Joker possibly know about him?
Was this some kind of twisted trap? He had no choice but to push forward. He reloaded the pistol, his hands shaking slightly, and moved into the green-lit passage, the haunting sonic hum growing louder with every step. He was in deeper than he'd ever imagined, and the Joker, whoever he was, clearly knew more than he should. The green glow intensified as Quill navigated the winding tunnels, eventually leading him to a vast, cavernous chamber. It was a sub-basement, a forgotten relic of Arkham's past, now repurposed into a grotesque, pulsating heart of madness. At its center stood an enormous, crudely fashioned contraption of rusted metal, exposed wires, and pulsing neon lights. From its core, a deafening, oscillating hum vibrated through the very foundations of the asylum, the source of the sonic broadcast. Around the device, dozens of other figures, equally gaunt and deranged as the one he had encountered, scurried about, tinkering with the machinery, their eyes wide with manic glee. They wore tattered Arkham uniforms, their faces distorted by an eerie, permanent grin. They were Joker's henchmen, his devoted, insane acolytes. Quill pressed himself against a grimy pillar, observing the scene. He counted at least 50 of them. And among them, near the sonic emitter, stood a figure who could only be the Joker. He was tall, slender, dressed in a garish purple suit, his green hair wild, his face a chalk-white mask with an impossibly wide, blood-red smile painted upon it. He was laughing, a chilling, high-pitched cackle that echoed off the damp stone walls, utterly unconcerned by the chaos outside. "My beautiful symphony," the Joker shrieked, waving a hand dramatically at the pulsating device.
Can you hear it, my little monsters? It sings to your little monsters. It sings to your primal urges, your glorious, ravenous hunger.
And soon Gotham will truly dance to my tune.
He threw his head back, his cackle echoing, a horrifying symphony of glee and pure malice. Quill stared, a cold knot forming in his stomach.
This wasn't just a supervillain. This was a force of nature, a twisted parody of life. The sheer scale of the operation, the unbridled madness in Joker's eyes, it was terrifying. And the man claimed to have been expecting him.
A shiver colder than the damp Arkham air traced its way down Quill's spine. He had to act, and fast.
The sonic hum was growing, vibrating through his very bones. He could feel its oppressive weight, a dark, insidious rhythm that threatened to overwhelm his senses. The creatures outside were undoubtedly growing more frenzied, more numerous. He glanced at the complex machinery, trying to identify a weakness, a central control panel, anything he could sabotage with his limited tools. The GCPD pistol felt laughably inadequate against this insanity. His mind raced.
50 henchmen, one Joker, one huge pulsating machine.
He was one guy, no armor, no blasters, just a pistol and a rapidly dwindling supply of bravado. His usual tactic of charming his way out of trouble or distracting enemies with a catchy tune was completely out of the question. This called for something crude, something direct, something Drax would do probably, or Rocket if he could somehow rig a grenade out of a stapler. He spotted a precarious stack of rusted barrels near the edge of the platform, precariously balanced. An idea reckless and desperate began to form. He took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing heart. This was it.
No turning back. All right, you purple-suited menace.
Quill roared, stepping out from behind the pillar, the pistol now leveled at the sonic emitter. His voice, amplified by the cavernous space, cut through Joker's cackles and the humming machinery.
Party's over.
No more creepy clowns, no more mutant swamp things, and definitely no more bad vibes. Silence. The henchman, startled by the sudden intrusion, froze. Joker's laughter died, his head tilting, that terrifying painted smile widening further as he slowly turned to face Quill. His eyes, though, were not smiling. They were cold, calculating, and filled with a chilling curiosity. "Oh, looky here," Joker chirped, his voice a grotesque sing-song.
The spaceman cometh.
Just in time for the big reveal.
I knew you wouldn't miss it, Star-Lord.
You always were a showman. Quill's blood ran cold. He hadn't introduced himself. He hadn't said Star-Lord. How did he know?
How do you know my name?
Quill demanded, trying to project a confidence he didn't feel. Joker clapped his hands together, a sharp, unnerving sound.
Oh, my dear boy, I know everything.
Or at least I know enough.
I know you fell from the sky, a little splash of stardust into our dreary puddle. I know you're not from around here. And I know you're going to make a magnificent addition to my masterpiece.
He gestured wildly at the throbbing machine, then at the horde of deranged henchmen, a fitting herald of the end of days. One of the henchmen, a hulking brute with a scarred face, roared and charged, a rusty machete glinting in the neon light. Quill didn't hesitate. He squeezed the trigger. The pistol cracked, the bullet striking the henchman in the chest. The man stumbled, grunted, but kept coming, his eyes glazed with fanaticism. The Kevlar vest, Quill realized with a jolt, was for him, not the henchman.
These guys were just crazy enough to shrug off a bullet. He's wearing body armor.
Quill yelled, exasperated. Seriously? How many of you psychos are armored? The brute reached him, machete swinging. Quill, with a desperate burst of agility, dodged the blow, feeling the wind of the blade on his cheek. He spun, driving the butt of the pistol into the man's jaw. The henchman staggered, momentarily stunned. Quill didn't wait. He kicked the man hard in the knee, sending him crashing to the ground. But his momentary victory was short-lived. Dozens of other henchmen surged forward, a wave of shrieking madness. Joker just watched, his smile fixed, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. Quill fired again, hitting another henchman in the arm, but they just kept coming. He was quickly being surrounded. This wasn't a fight he could win conventionally. He needed a distraction, something big. He spotted a thick power conduit leading into the sonic emitter, sparking erratically. It was protected but not impregnable. His eyes flickered back to the stack of barrels. He took a deep breath. "All right, boys, let's dance," Quill yelled, his voice cracking slightly. He opened fire, not at the henchman, but at the precarious stack of barrels. The bullets ripped through the rusty metal, spraying splinters and an acrid, chemical-laced mist. The barrels, already unstable, wobbled precariously. The henchman paused, confused by his bizarre target. Joker, however, tilted his head, a flicker of understanding, and something akin to admiration in his eyes. "Oh, you are a clever one, spaceman," Joker shrieked, his voice rising in pitch. "But not clever enough."
Get him, my darlings. Don't let him ruin the party.
Quill didn't wait. With a final burst of adrenaline, he sprinted towards the power conduit, dodging the flailing limbs and rusty weapons of the henchman. He emptied the rest of his pistol magazine into the barrels, creating more chaos, more instability. The stack swayed violently. He reached the conduit, grabbing a loose, exposed wire. It sparked, shocking him, but he held on. With a grunt of effort, he ripped the wire free, tearing it from its housing. A shower of sparks erupted, and a section of the massive sonic emitter flickered, its hum momentarily stuttering. The henchmen snarled, enraged by the attack on their masterpiece. But before they could converge on him, the stack of barrels, loosened by the gunfire and Quill's reckless sprint, finally gave way. With a groan of tortured metal, they tumbled, crashing into the flimsy scaffolding that supported a large exposed section of the sonic emitter. The entire structure groaned, sparking violently. Wires snapped, and a cascade of machinery tumbled downwards, landing with a deafening crash. The sonic hum died, replaced by a horrible, grating screech of tearing metal and failing electronics. A wave of palpable silence fell over the chamber, broken only by the groaning of the dying machine and the frantic shouts of the henchmen. The bay horrors outside, suddenly deprived of their guiding frequency, would be disoriented, confused. It was a momentary reprieve, but a crucial one. Joker's smile, for the first time, faltered. His eyes narrowed, burning with a cold fury Quill had only seen in Ronan the Accuser, but far more unsettling because it was human.
Or what passed for human? You ruined it.
Joker hissed, his voice dropping to a terrifying whisper, more chilling than any scream. A beautiful symphony.
My grand design.
You clumsy, insensitive oaf.
You'll pay for that, Star-Lord. Oh, you'll pay in ways you can't even imagine.
He pulled something from his jacket, a long, thin knife, its blade gleaming menacingly in the dim light. And then, surprisingly, he lunged, not with wild abandon, but with a terrifying precision, a dancer's grace belying his lanky frame. Quill stared, momentarily stunned by the raw, focused hatred in Joker's eyes. This wasn't a madman flailing. This was a calculating, deadly predator. He dropped the now empty pistol, realizing it was useless. He had no choice but to fight hand to hand, something he rarely did without his element guns or the benefit of an unexpected dance-off. Joker slashed, a lightning-fast movement aimed at Quill's throat. Quill barely ducked, feeling the cold steel pass inches from his skin. He threw a punch, aiming for Joker's jaw, but the clown was faster than he looked, weaving out of the way with an unnerving fluidity. Such crude movements, spaceman, Joker mocked, his voice a guttural growl. Where's the flair? Where's the panache? Oh, I suppose you leave that to your little green girlfriend, Quill reeled, not just from the near miss, but from the mention of Gamora.
How could he know?
How could he know about his life, his team, his galaxy? The implications were terrifying, stretching beyond mere local madness. How do you know about Gamora? Quill snarled, suddenly filled with a white-hot rage that eclipsed his fear. What did you do? Joker laughed, a chilling, triumphant sound. Oh, nothing at all, my dear. She's far too important for my little games.
But you were a gift.
A delightful, unexpected gift from the cosmos. A crack in reality, a tear in the fabric of worlds, brought you right to my doorstep. He lunged again, the knife flashing.
And for that, I'm eternally grateful.
Quill parried the attack, grabbing Joker's wrist, twisting. The clown gasped, his eyes wide, but he didn't release the knife. Instead, he twisted with impossible flexibility, bringing a knee up sharply towards Quill's groin. Quill blocked with his forearm, the impact jarring, but then Joker used the momentum to pull free, spinning away. You're not from this universe, are you, Star-Lord? Joker crooned, circling him like a snake. Such a rare, delicious specimen.
A cosmic anomaly.
My old friend, he knows these things.
He told me you'd be coming. Who?
Quill demanded, trying to keep his focus on the deadly knife.
Who told you?
Joker just grinned, a grotesque rictus. Oh, he's a silent partner mostly.
A benefactor.
He's always watching. He finds the fun in everything. He knew your little dimensional leap would send you somewhere interesting. Somewhere fun. The henchman, disoriented by the silence of the sonic emitter, was slowly starting to stir. Glancing nervously at Joker and Quill, they were still too far to intervene, seemingly waiting for a signal from their master. Quill realized he was out of time. He had to end this now. He faked a lunge, drawing Joker's knife arm wide, then spun, using his greater bulk to collide with the clown, knocking him off balance. They crashed against a control console, sparks flying. Joker snarled, his eyes blazing. He brought the knife up, aiming for Quill's eye. Quill grabbed his wrist again, twisting hard, and slammed Joker's hand against the console. The knife clattered free, sliding across the damp floor. Joker screamed, a sound of pure, unadulterated fury, and head-butted Quill. Stars exploded behind Quill's eyes, and he staggered back, blood blooming on his forehead. Joker seized the opportunity, bringing both hands up, trying to choke Quill. His grip was surprisingly strong, his fingers like steel bands around Quill's throat. Quill choked, struggling for air, his vision blurring. He was stronger, but Joker was pure distilled madness. He fought dirty, with a ferocity born of utter desperation and joy in causing pain. Quill clawed at Joker's hands, trying to pry them off, but the clown's grip was like iron. he felt himself losing consciousness. The chamber spun. Gamora's face flashed in his mind. Rocket, Drax, Groot. He couldn't die here. In a sewer at the hands of a psycho clown. With a final, desperate surge of adrenaline, Quill threw his entire body weight backwards, slamming Joker into the very core of the now failing sonic emitter. A shower of sparks erupted. Joker screamed, not in pain, but in surprise, his grip momentarily loosening. Quill seized the chance, pulling his head back, gasping for air. He brought his knee up, aiming for Joker's midsection, but the clown, still fused to the machine, buckled, then snapped, reaching for something on the console. His fingers closed around a heavy, rusted wrench. "You want to play rough, spaceman?" Joker shrieked, his voice filled with a terrible glee.
I can play rough.
He swung the wrench, a devastating blow aimed at Quill's head. Quill, still disoriented, reacted too slowly. The wrench connected with his shoulder with a sickening thud. Pain exploded through his arm, sending him stumbling back, his arm going limp. He cried out, clutching his shoulder. "Quill!"
He's too fast. Get out of there!
Gordon's voice crackled through his comm, sharp with alarm. The external comms, which had been mostly static, had finally cleared with the death of the sonic broadcast. Quill glanced at the comm. Gordon. He wasn't alone. Hope, a tiny ember, flickered within him. Joker laughed, seeing Quill's momentary distraction, and swung again, aiming for a killing blow. But just as the wrench descended, a shadow detached itself from the gloom above. A figure descended, a dark silhouette against the flickering neon, moving with impossible speed and grace. He landed between Quill and Joker, a heavy thud echoing through the chamber. He was tall, powerfully built, clad in an armored suit of dark grey and black, with a flowing cape and a cowl that hid his face in shadow, revealing only a grim, determined jawline. His ears, pointed and bat-like, were instantly recognizable to Quill from the wanted poster Bullock had shown him. Batman. Joker's wrench blow, meant for Quill, connected instead with Batman's armored forearm. The sound was like a hammer striking stone, but Batman didn't even flinch. He simply seized Joker's wrist, twisting it with brutal efficiency. The wrench clattered to the floor as Joker screamed, a sound of pure agony. "The party's over, Joker." Batman's voice was a low growl, a rumble that seemed to emanate from the very shadows. "Your fun ends here." Joker, contorted in Batman's iron grip, looked up at the Dark Knight, his face a mask of pain, but his eyes still held that manic glint.
Batsy! Oh, Batsy, you made it! I knew you wouldn't miss the grand finale. And what a finale it is. A spaceman!
Even you couldn't have predicted this little guest, could you? Batman ignored him, his focus entirely on subduing the struggling clown. With a swift movement, he disarmed Joker, pulled him away from the damaged console, and slammed him against the nearest pillar, pinning him with one hand. Joker struggled, but Batman's grip was unyielding. Quill, clutching his throbbing shoulder, stared in awe. This was him, the legendary him Gordon had mentioned. He was impressive and terrifying. He was like a walking shadow, a force of nature.
No theatrics, just raw, brutal efficiency. Star-Lord, Batman rumbled, his cowl turning slightly towards Quill. Are you all right?
Quill, caught off guard by the direct address, stammered.
Yeah, mostly.
Shoulders a bit dinged up, but thanks. Really appreciate the assist. You kind of swooped in there at the last minute, dramatic entrance. Very cool. Batman simply grunted, his attention still on Joker, who was now writhing and spitting curses, trying to bite Batman's arm. Gordon's forces are moving in. The creatures are disoriented. The threat is contained for now. Contained? Joker shrieked, suddenly finding a burst of manic energy.
Oh no, Batsy. It's never contained. Not when I have him.
My little gift from beyond? The key to breaking reality itself. He started laughing again, a wild, uncontrolled sound.
He's not just a spaceman, Batsy. He's a bridge, a tear in the fabric. Once I understand how he came here, I'll spread my chaos across worlds.
Across dimensions. Batman's grip tightened on Joker, and for a moment, Quill saw a flicker of genuine fear, or at least intense concern, in the Dark Knight's eyes. The idea of dimensional breaches and bridges was clearly something that resonated with Batman, striking a nerve even he couldn't entirely mask. "What are you talking about, Joker?" Batman demanded, his voice devoid of its usual calm, a hint of desperation in it. "Oh, it's all so clear now, isn't it?" Joker cackled despite the pain.
The energy signature from his crash, the instability.
The whispers from the void.
He didn't just fall here, Batsy. He was pulled.
By the very same forces that speak to me.
The entities that revel in chaos. They sent him. A beacon, a sign.
To usher in a new age of glorious, beautiful, multiversal madness. Quill felt a chill that permeated his very soul. Whispers from the void.
Entities?
He thought back to the collapsing Kree portal, the sense of being torn, stretched, flung through a rift. Was it truly just a random accident? Or had something pulled him, used him? The notion that some unseen cosmic force of chaos might have orchestrated his arrival for some sinister purpose, it was terrifying. Batman, however, seemed to put the pieces together faster than Quill. His eyes, though hidden, seemed to focus on Quill with a new intensity. The dimensional instability around his crash site, the Justice League's readings, it all makes sense. He turned back to Joker, his voice regaining its steel. "You're delusional, Joker. There are no entities."
Only you and your twisted desire for chaos. Oh, but there are, Batsy.
Joker insisted, a triumphant gleam in his eyes. "They love me.
They feed on the madness.
And now, thanks to our Star-Lord here, they're ready for an all-you-can-eat buffet of despair." Suddenly the cavern rumbled violently. Dust and debris rained down from the ceiling. A massive crack spiderwebbed across the ancient stone wall, right where the damaged sonic emitter was fused. "The structure's unstable," Batman stated, pushing Joker further into the pillar, effectively pinning him against it. The damage to the emitter is compromising the foundation. "This section is going to collapse." "Perfect," Joker screamed, still laughing, spittle flying from his lips.
A truly explosive finale.
"Bravo, Star-Lord."
Encore? Encore?
"We need to go," Batman said, turning to Quill. "Now!" Quill, still clutching his shoulder, nodded grimly. He glanced at the still disoriented henchmen, who were now looking around frantically, trying to make sense of the collapsing chamber. He didn't want to leave them to die, but there was no time to save 50 deranged lunatics. He had done his part. "Right," Quill said, gritting his teeth against the pain. "Which way out?" Batman pointed to a narrow maintenance access shaft high up on the wall, one Quill hadn't noticed. "Up, it leads to an upper level. Gordon's teams are converging on the main entrance now. The way should be clear." He pulled a grappling hook from his utility belt, firing it with a hiss. The claw slammed into the opening of the shaft, securing with a thud.
"You first," Batman commanded, his voice firm. Quill, despite his injury, managed a sarcastic grin.
"Always the gentleman. And what about your friend?" He gestured with his good arm towards Joker, still pinned, but somehow still laughing. "He's not going anywhere," Batman said, his voice flat.
"I'll ensure he's secured." "Go," Quill didn't argue.
He gritted his teeth, grabbed the rope, and began to pull himself up, wincing with every movement of his shoulder. The shaft was narrow, dusty, and felt like it was closing in on him. He could hear the escalating groans of the crumbling chamber below, the increasing frequency of falling debris. He finally pulled himself into the upper shaft, scrambling onto a small, precarious ledge. He looked back, just in time to see Batman, with a sudden, powerful movement, slam Joker's head against the pillar, knocking him out cold. The Dark Knight then secured the unconscious clown with what looked like specialized restraints from his belt, attaching him firmly to a solid pipe. Another massive tremor shook the asylum. A huge section of the ceiling above the lower chamber caved in, bringing down tons of rock and concrete. "Batman!" Quill yelled, a genuine note of fear in his voice.
Get out of there!
Batman, ignoring Quill, quickly attached another grappling hook to the unconscious Joker, securing him to a more stable part of the ceiling, away from the immediate collapse. He then looked up at Quill, his eyes unreadable in the cowl. "I need to ensure he's recovered," Batman stated, his voice calm, even amidst the chaos. "Gordon will send a recovery team once the immediate threat is dealt with. They'll know where to find him. Now go, find Commissioner Gordon."
He'll debrief you. I'll be right behind you. Quill didn't understand.
Why risk his life for an unconscious Joker? But he knew he couldn't argue. He was just a guy out of his depth. This was Batman's world. Batman's rules. "All right," Quill said, feeling the floor tremble beneath him. "Don't take too long, Caped Crusader. This whole place is coming down." He turned and clambered further up the shaft, navigating the tight, claustrophobic passages, driven by the urgency of the collapsing asylum. He could hear the sounds of the collapse echoing behind him, followed by the faint thud of Batman's grappling hook. After what felt like an eternity, he emerged into a brightly lit, sterile hallway. The air was cleaner, filled with the faint scent of disinfectant and ozone. He was in the upper levels of Arkham Asylum. He found himself in the midst of a frantic scene. GCPD officers led by Gordon and Bullock were sweeping through the hallways, securing patients, evacuating staff, and dealing with the lingering chaos. The sounds of distant gunfire and the wails of the Bay horrors were fading, replaced by the shouts of officers and the eerie moans of disturbed inmates. Gordon spotted Quill immediately, his face etched with relief.
Star-Lord! You made it?
The broadcast had stopped. Quill stumbled towards him, leaning against a wall, clutching his injured shoulder.
Yeah, I kind of broke it.
Joker's secured. Batman handled him. He's downstairs. The whole place is coming down, though. You might want to get everyone out, Gordon nodded grimly. We're on it. Our forces are pushing the Bay horrors back into the water. They're disoriented without the broadcast. We're containing them. You did good, Quill. Better than good. You saved the city. Bullock surprisingly looked at Quill with a hint of grudging respect.
I guess you weren't so full of it after all, Ms. Spaceman. Quill managed a weak smile. Just another Tuesday, Bullock.
Just another Tuesday. He looked around at the chaos, the relieved but exhausted faces of the officers.
He had done it.
He had stopped the Joker. He had saved Gotham. And he was alive. Just then, Batman emerged from a side corridor, his cape swirling around him. He moved silently, a shadow within shadows despite the light. He gave Gordon a curt nod. Joker is secured, Commissioner. Below, the structural integrity of the lower levels is severely compromised. Recommend immediate evacuation. Understood, Batman, Gordon said.
Thank you.
For everything. Batman simply nodded again, then turned his gaze to Quill. His eyes seemed to bore into Quill's very being. We need to talk, Star-Lord.
About what the Joker said.
About your arrival. There are implications that extend far beyond Gotham. Quill felt a familiar unease. Saving the galaxy was one thing.
Accidentally becoming a multiversal anomaly was another.
Yeah, I figured. What did he mean by my old friend?
Who exactly is this silent partner of Joker's?
Batman's jaw tightened. There are forces in the multiverse that seek to exploit anomalies, to spread chaos across realities. We've encountered hints of them before. Joker's madness has always been a beacon for such influences. Your arrival, a direct result of a dimensional collapse, makes you a focal point. Quill swallowed. So I'm a cosmic magnet for trouble. Great. Just what I needed. I just want to find my team and go home. Do you guys have like a cosmic bus ticket? Batman actually managed a slight tilt of his head, almost imperceptible. Our advanced analysis division, with assistance from others, has been tracking the energy signature left by your ship's impact. It's unique. We believe it's a residual warp field, a faint echo of the dimensional rift that brought you here.
If we can amplify it, stabilize it, there's a chance we could reverse the process. Quill's heart leapt. A chance, a real chance.
You mean I could go back?
To my galaxy.
To my team? It's a theoretical possibility, Batman cautioned. Highly dangerous, and requires immense power. But it's the only lead we have. We'll need your assistance. Your knowledge of your universe's unique warp mechanics could be invaluable. Deal, Quill said, immediately wincing as he moved his shoulder too quickly. Whatever you need. Just tell me where to go. Do I have to fill out a customs form? Because I'm not great with paperwork. Batman didn't respond to the humor. We'll relocate you to a secure facility. The Justice League will oversee the project. The Justice League? Quill repeated, intrigued. So like a whole team of you guys. Are they all as intense as you? Batman's silence was his only answer. Gordon stepped forward. In the meantime, we'll get you some medical attention for that shoulder, Quill, and a proper meal. You've earned it. Quill looked at Gordon, at Bullock, at the grimy, weary officers, and then back at Batman, a looming enigma. He was still lost, still alone, but he wasn't entirely helpless anymore. He had found allies, strange as they were,
and he had a glimmer of hope. Sounds good, Commissioner, Quill said, a weary but genuine smile spreading across his face.
Just make sure it's not Arkham special. I think I've had enough Joker's funhouse for a lifetime. Weeks blurred into a dizzying cycle of scans, interrogations, and highly theoretical physics discussions. Peter Quill found himself sequestered in a secure subterranean facility, one of the many secret installations belonging to the nascent Justice League. The Justice League, it turned out, was less a single team and more a coalition of the world's most powerful heroes and brilliant minds, all working towards a common goal of protecting Earth. And now, apparently, the multiverse. He met them all, or at least some of the most prominent members. Superman, whose quiet strength and unwavering moral compass were almost intimidating. Wonder Woman, an Amazonian warrior whose ancient wisdom and battle prowess were legendary. The Flash, a whirlwind of boundless energy and humor, surprisingly, a much-needed breath of fresh air amidst the stern faces. Green Lantern, whose power ring was a marvel of cosmic engineering. And of course, Batman, who seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once, a constant, watchful presence, always analyzing, always planning. His shoulder healed, thanks to advanced medical tech that made Kree medkits look like bandages. He was given new, comfortable civilian clothes, though he still preferred his old leather jacket, now mended and cleaned. His Zune was recovered, painstakingly repaired by a cheerful, nerdy tech specialist who gushed over its alien antique status, though sadly, most of its stored music was corrupted. He still grieved the loss of his Milano, his home, and his friends. But the hope of return, however slim, kept him going. The core of their work focused on the residual warp signature, an ethereal, fluctuating energy field that pulsed faintly beneath the very facility. It was, as Batman had described, an echo of the rift, a scar in reality. Dr. Silas Stone, a brilliant scientist and father of Cyborg, led the technical efforts, a quiet genius who spoke in complex equations and theories Quill barely grasped. The dimensional breach wasn't a clean tear. Star-Lord, Dr. Stone explained one afternoon, projecting complex holographic models of interdimensional physics. It was frayed, like a piece of cloth violently ripped.
And your ship, were caught in the fraying.
The Joker's sonic emitter, amplified by his madness, seemed to resonate with the residual energy, drawing more bay horrors and subtly interacting with the instability you brought, creating localized anomalies. So I was basically a cosmic siren call for fish lizard monsters? Quill deadpanned. Dr. Stone managed a slight, apologetic smile. A simplification, but not entirely inaccurate. The point is, the breach left a trace, a pathway, faint, unstable but present. Our goal is to stabilize it, amplify it, and create a controlled return trajectory for you. And the Joker's silent partner? Quill pressed.
These entities?
What did Batman find out? Dr. Stone's expression grew serious. Batman and Superman have compiled intelligence from various sources. There are indeed cosmic entities that thrive on chaos, on the breakdown of order across the multiverse. They often work through agents, sowing discord, twisting minds. The Joker, unfortunately, is a prime example of a fertile ground for such influence. While his madness is his own, his recent abilities, the precise control over the Bay horrors, the almost prescient knowledge of your arrival, strongly suggest a guiding hand. So, I wasn't just pulled here by a random accident, Quill mused, the implication chilling him.
I was a pawn, an unwitting part of some cosmic prank. More like an opportunity, a new voice chimed in.
Batman entered the lab, a data pad in his hand. Your dimensional jump wasn't entirely random. The Kree portal collapse likely destabilized a specific point in the multiversal fabric, one that these entities had been subtly probing. Your presence here, an anomaly of such magnitude, opened a window they sought to exploit. Joker was simply the most accessible conduit on this Earth for their influence. And if I go back? Quill asked, a prickle of fear mixed with hope. Will I still be a target? Will these entities follow? Batman paused, his gaze unblinking. That's the risk. We believe that if we can create a clean, controlled re-entry, it will seal the localized tear, severing their connection to this specific breach point. But the multiverse is vast.
And chaos finds a way. Quill rubbed his jaw.
Just great. So even if I get home, I'm still on their cosmic hit list. Wonderful. You already were, Star-Lord, Batman stated, his voice flat. Your life, your adventures across the galaxy, you've already tangled with forces beyond this world. You simply weren't aware of the deeper game being played.
Now you are. A sobering thought.
He had always thought his troubles were local, specific to his quadrant of the galaxy. To think they were part of a larger multiversal struggle, it put things into a terrifying new perspective. So when do we start? Quill asked, a grim determination settling in. When do I become the guinea pig that fixes your multiversal problem? The power source is the primary challenge, Dr. Stone explained, pointing to another holographic schematic. To generate a stable, reverse warp signature, we need an energy output beyond anything Earth currently possesses without catastrophic side effects. We've been working on a solution, a crystalline matrix that can channel immense energies, but it's temperamental. Temperamental is usually a prelude to explodes violently, Quill muttered. Remembering Rocket's creations, precisely, Dr. Stone conceded. It requires a very delicate touch to calibrate and activate. We're talking about microseconds of precision.
One wrong move and it could destabilize, creating a localized black hole, or worse, tearing open new rifts across the city. Quill's jaw dropped. Localized black hole? Or worse? And you want me to be near this thing when it goes off?
You possess a unique connection to the original rift energy, Batman explained. Your very presence amplifies the residual signature. You are both the catalyst and the key to its control. We believe that with your unique genetic makeup, your celestial heritage, you might be able to interact with the Matrix on a fundamental level, guiding its output. Quill blinked. His celestial heritage.
He hadn't thought about that in ages. Ego, the power.